Of all the travel advice I give out, the number one thing I get in more arguments about with people is using a travel agent to book a cruise. More often than not, they don't book with a travel agent for one of three reasons. They didn't know a travel agent still exists, they don't want to lose control, so to speak, of their reservation, or they think it'll cost them more money. But all three of these reasons are just plain wrong. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Now, I've been cruising with Royal Caribbean for over 100 sailings. I was cruising for almost 20 years. And with all of that, I've learned one truth about cruising. Having a travel agent makes it a lot easier. And the reason why I'm such a big proponent of using a good travel agent is for the services they provide. It's a lot like insurance. You don't really need it until you need it. And then when you do need it, boy, are you glad you have it. And a good travel agent comes at no extra cost to you because they're paid by the cruise line. They make a commission. The reason why you may have thought travel agents don't exist anymore is that airlines and other forms of travel moved away from the commission-based process, and as a result, travel agencies kind of dwindled because there was less of the revenue. But the cruise industry remains. And why is that? Because cruising is so personal. When you book a flight on Delta Airlines, I mean, the experience is pretty universal. I mean, you're picking your cabin, certainly, first class, economy, whatever, but there isn't a whole lot of variation there. But cruises are completely different. There's so many choices you can make from start to finish that impact how you enjoy and how you spend your cruise. In fact, that's the reason why when you go online and you search for like one of the big websites out there that can book cruises, whether it's like American Express or Expedia or any of those big companies out there, inevitably you end up calling in to book it because there's a lot of those personal choices. But what it really boils down to is ensuring you have a great vacation, because a good travel agent has that wealth of knowledge. I mean, you're coming into it, especially if you're new to cruising, with a lot of questions. What's the right type of cabin for you? Which dining choice should you pick? What type of deposit is the right idea? And of course, which type of sailing? Is this ship better than that ship? There's so many of these subjective terms that come into it, rather than when you're flying and you want to go from Miami to New York. Well, it's pretty obvious. You want a direct flight, ideally, and you kind of go from there and book your flight and, a schedule that works for you. But cruising is more than just from point A to point B. There's so much that happens in between, and that's why today I wanted to talk about the importance of using a good travel agent. One of the top reasons people don't book with a travel agent is because they think they're going to lose control of the reservation. And there's a partial truth to this, in the sense that when you book with a travel agent, if you want to cancel the reservation or change sailings, change the ship, change the room, then yes, the travel agent is your go-between. You cannot call the cruise line and make those changes on your own. In reality, this doesn't matter because it's very rare to make those kinds of changes. In my experience, most people, first of all, end up sailing on the ship they end up booking in the first place. But more importantly, if you want to make those changes, it's really not a big deal to have your travel agent, make those changes for you. This includes obviously repricing your cruise, which is a huge benefit of a good travel agent. I get so many emails from folks who watch these videos and hear me talk about how you can reprice a cruise up until your final payment date. But the reason why they're sending the emails is because they book directly with the cruise line. And when they call Royal Caribbean, the agent on the other line has no idea what they're talking about. Whereas a good travel agent, it's super easy. I never have to argue with my travel agent about it. I simply just text them. That's my preferred way of doing it, but you can certainly email or call. And you explain how I want to do a repricing of a particular sailing, and boom, they take care of it because they know the process. I would argue booking with a travel agent takes away the boring stuff. Making a reservation, changing your dining times, that's all on the travel agent. Let them deal with that. The fun stuff is still on you. You get to still pick the shore excursions, the drink packages, Wi-Fi, cabanas. Everything that's really makes your cruise even better is still on you. And you can use that with the Royal Caribbean app. You can use it on the Royal Caribbean website. That you still have control over. Oftentimes, the scenario people paint is like it's 11 o'clock at night. You find a cruise you want to book, and you feel like you're out of luck because your travel agent is instantly available to you. I would argue a couple things. Number one, you could always book the cruise on your own and then roll the reservation over to your agent. You have within 30 days of making the reservation to assign it to them. Some travel agencies actually have their own booking website. As an example, our sponsor travel agency, full disclosure, they're a sponsor, MEI Travel, has a website, bookmeicruise.com. You can go to, and you can book the cruise through the website. It's the same prices, if not better, because they have group rates on there as the Royal Caribbean website. And it'll be auto-assigned back to your agent. But if you want to make changes, yes, at 1 o'clock in the morning to change your ship from this particular sailing to that sailing, or this ship to that ship, or this room to that room, you're right. You're going to have to wait for them to do that. But a good travel agency is certainly very responsive to that. Another reason why people swear it's better to go without a travel agent and book directly is because they think it'll cost them more money to work with a travel agent. Now, there are some travel agents out there that do charge service fees or whatnot. That is a travel agent I wouldn't recommend. I talk about using a good travel agency. And as I mentioned earlier, Royal Caribbean pays a commission to these travel agencies for their services, so they're paid by the cruise line. A good agency should not cost you extra in order to use that. And on top of that, they're going to get you the best rates possible. It will never be higher than what's available on Royal Caribbean's website. Oftentimes, travel agencies will include things like gratuities or travel insurance with their quote, and that's when people look at the website and be like, oh, it costs more. Well, you got to compare apples to apples on that. But more importantly, a travel agent is more likely to save you money. And the reason why I say that is travel agents have access to group rates. There are agency rates, group bookings in which there are specially negotiated rates that are actually lower than you can find on the Royal Caribbean website. This is one of my favorite tricks for getting a lower price on a cruise is by stumbling upon, quite frankly, some of these group rates that are out there. In fact, sometimes I'll just ask my travel agent, hey, are you seeing any good group rates I can take advantage of? Because I'm looking for a sailing between this date and this date, and you never know. Group rates are kind of like buying in bulk. The agency takes on a certain amount of cabins and hopes to sell them and promises to sell them. And so as a result, they get a discounted rate. Or they get the rates so early on in the timeline that later on, the regular prices go up significantly from there. But the reason why I really think travel agents are worth it is not so much for booking a cruise. Truthfully, anybody can book a cruise. It's not difficult to go on the Royal Caribbean website and book it. But the value of a good travel agent is when there's a problem, when you need help with something, like maybe your reservation is accidentally canceled, somebody you booked on the cruise now doesn't want to go, you need to change names, add people, or remove people. There's a last minute change, you need to cancel your reservation and you're going to invoke travel insurance. Or you simply don't know what you don't know, and a travel agent is there to help you, kind of like a lawyer. When you go to court, they know the ins and outs of the system, and this is very much true of travel agents with booking a cruise. Plus, the more you book with them, the easier it becomes because the travel agent gets to know what you're looking for. These days, when I book a cruise, I'm just texting, hey, I'd like to book a cruise this date. Here's who's coming with me, and I'm off to the races. It's really simple. I think too many people get caught up on this whole control thing about like, I want people to control my reservation, and you're right. You can't make changes to the initial booking later on in order to cancel or rebook or do something like else, but I think those concerns are way overblown. Ultimately, they're not that interesting. And that means the travel agent is the one who's, by the way, calling Royal Caribbean, sitting on hold, waiting for an operator in order to reprice your cruise, change your sailing, make a change to your reservation, while you don't have to do any of that stuff. You get to enjoy the best things, which is plan out the fun things about the cruise and leave the boring stuff to them. Plus, travel agents are also there to make sure you make your payments on time. This is a very common issue where people that book on their own, despite the repeated emails from Royal Caribbean, which they may or may not get, reminding them to make final payment before the final payment date or risk losing their entire reservation. And to be clear, not all travel agents are the same, just like not all Italian restaurants are the same. So just like you wouldn't write off Italian food for the rest of your life because you had one bad experience at the Olive Garden, doesn't mean you should write off all travel agents because you had one that you may have used in the past. There are really good ones out there. You want to find those from personal recommendations from friends, families, and people you respect, and then you start using them to make it a lot easier on you to plan your cruise. Let me know in the comments below, do you use a travel agent, and why do you use one? And if you're somebody who doesn't book it with a travel agent yet, respect, that's okay. Let me know what's holding you back. Was there another reason other than the top 3 I mentioned here in this video that's stopping you from trying one? Maybe we can do a follow-up video with this. Thanks for watching. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.